Good evening, everyone. Welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. This is Grand Forks City Council's Committee of the Whole from Monday, July 14th. Under item 1 to call to order, 1.1 welcome and roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Salsky. Here. Berg. Here. Lensky. Here. Friedels.
Here.
Sandy.
Here.
And Veen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. We have no informational items tonight, so under discussion items, 3.1 39th Avenue Self-Development Project Tax Incentive Pre-Application. Mr. Phelan.
Council President Sandy, members of the committee of the whole, we have another a complex here that's asking to move forward through the tax incentive process. It would be a pilot tax incentive. The uniqueness of this particular project, it is a partnership among Dakota Commercial, MAC, both capital and construction, and then Red River Regional Council. Red River Regional Council comes in regarding housing incentives and tax credits from both the state and federal governments. And so really the intent of this project is to create low and moderate income housing. The site is in and around where, I'm trying to think of the furniture place. Help me out on
Furniture Row.
Furniture Row. So it is also going through planning and zoning right now. I think it was approved last week at planning and zoning. You'll see that on the 21st. So they are asking for a rezoning to go move it from commercial to housing. And so you will see that on the 21st. So this really tax incentive is running alongside that planning and zoning. In addition, there are application and selection processes that are going to occur this fall yet to submit for state and federal, whether it's credits or grants. And so we'll know more later this year. So when I would say the one thing is that we're going to move through, if you do approve under a pre-application, it would go to Baker Tilly. They would review it with these various federal and state incentives. And if those don't come to fruition, we would likely be back here asking to, revise it because some of those credits or incentives would not be part of this particular project. That's our goal, and to really fit that niche of what we're looking for, workforce housing, trying to beneficially use some property on the south end that's, having a challenging time with commercial. So that's the intent. I see Mr. Regan is here from Dakota Commercial. He's one of the lead developers on this particular project. We are asking to move forward and have you agree to the pre-application so that we can get this project reviewed. I just wanted to highlight the fact that this is a little bit different than the previous ones that we brought through a few months ago. With that, I'd answer any questions. And Mr. Regan is also here.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Any comments or questions about Ms. Berg?
Yes, I'm super excited to see this application come before us, especially because it has the low to moderate component to it. Not only are we short apartments, but especially in that low to moderate range, and so I move approval.
Moved by Berg. Is there a second? Second by Lensky. Thank you. Mr. Friedels? Yes, sir?
What's the price range that we consider low to moderate?
I would, maybe Mr. Regan can answer. I think the other thing I did ask while Mr. Regan comes up is I also asked, do we really want to approve this in advance of going through the state and federal process? What Mr. Regan has provided to me is that applications are seen in better light when you can demonstrate you've gotten some local partnership, being from your local governments regarding the project. So he thought if we could move through this, there's no guarantees, but this would help their application because they've lined up some the local process as part of this particular project. So with that, I'd hand it over to Mr. Regan.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up an email from this morning to answer your question directly, Mr. Friedels. What we have right now on an average, and this might move up or down a little bit, but it's going to be pretty close. Efficiencies were $865, one bedroom's $960, two bed, one bath, $1,134, two bed, two bath, $1,245, and then the three bed, two baths are $1,489. So we're about 25% under market.
That's great.
value.
That's cool. That's good news. Thank you. Good.
That is good news. Yes, Ms. Lensky?
Can you also explain to us, we talked about it this morning, about what levels someone can make to live there?
Yeah, so we're going to have multiple different levels throughout this building, anywhere from 30% of area median income up to 80%. That 30% probably lies in that 35,000 for an individual, whereas the 80% is about 62, just numbers off the top of my head, I think it's close to that. Then if there's two occupants or 3, 4, those numbers go up.
Any further comment?
Yeah, I
Yes,
have
Ms.
a com-
Linsky.
I just feel like this project is kind of everything we've wanted. You're taking advantage of federal programs, state programs, so I think it's a great program, so thank you.
The location, although the location's commercial, it's also abuts pretty high-dense neighborhood too, so the location, I think, works great as well, on a relatively busy road, so. Yes, Ms. Osowski?
Yeah, I have multiple comments. I guess I don't agree with giving tax incentives to apartment buildings. I would rather give them to build single-family homes. And, you stated 1134 for a two-bed. My mortgage is cheaper than that, and I live in a decent-sized house. And so, to me, that isn't really considered, I guess, low income. I think the best thing that we could do is help people purchase homes. I know that the Trump administration recently came out and they stated that the amount of money that people are paying in their rent can be used now in good faith to actually get a home loan, because to me, 1134 for a two-bedroom, I really honestly don't even know who could afford that. Also, I feel that if we incentivized single-family homes, then maybe some people, and then, with the new administration's plan with allowing people to use the amount that they pay for rent to help secure a home loan, hopefully, if we incentivize more single-family homes, it would get people out of those apartments and make them homeowners. And I think that would be all around the best bet. I also do not care for the term workforce housing, because here we are subsidizing our workforce. Are our citizens being paid adequately at these businesses if they can't even afford a home? And so here we are as taxpayers, we're giving tax incentives to businesses to come in here because it's going to supposedly create more jobs. And then we're stuck in a position where, now we don't have workforce housing and we have to give you guys tax incentives to build apartments. So basically, we're just subsidizing all of these workers within our community. And I don't feel that people renting in our community are ever going to be able to really make it out of that rental unless we're able to build and provide more single-family homes within our community to help them, build equity and build a better life. And so, although I do support, I know we need low-income housing, but at the same time, is it necessary that we build a brand-new apartment complex for low-income housing? It's not a need to live in a brand-new apartment building, so what else does this apartment building entail? Are you guys going to, is it just going to be a plain Jane apartment building? Is there going to be, swimming pools and other activities that are there, like gyms within? Those are not necessities. People need roofs over their heads. They don't need taxpayers to subsidize these extras that have been going up in apartment buildings, and I think that that's great as long as people can afford to pay the rent, but here we are subsidizing all those. And so although I do think that our community needs more low-income housing, I do not agree that this is the correct step forward for it, so thank you.
Mr. Phelan, the question I heard out of all of that is, do we need to incentivize the construction of a whole low-income, low to moderate income apartment building?
I think it's something we should strive for. Single-family homes, we're all in on that. This city council, we've maxed out all the state incentives. 2-year builder, 2-year homeowner incentive at 100%.
Five-year remodeling exemption.
5-year remodeling incentive for both commercial, residential. We've increased our cost shares on all utilities, streets on some of these developments. So Grand Valley, we're into that development millions. We've deferred the specials for 3 years. We've increased our cost shares. I think if the state...
we hear people complaining, saying that the property taxes in our community are too high, which I would agree, I want lower property taxes, but the city is taking on an overwhelmingly large burden on so many of the infrastructure and all of these things to help keep the prices of housing down. And so anytime we get an opportunity to bring in my opinion, to bring in new housing, especially that's taking advantage of state and federal programming to provide additional housing, we know that we have a shortage of housing at every price point, whether it's apartments or single-family homes. So I'm sorry, Mr. Phelan, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So I think we're all in on all kinds of housing, and I think this also fits well. There's nothing wrong with people living in apartments. Many people do that. More than half the people that live in Grand Forks do that, and are good citizens of Grand Forks.
Certainly. Further, yes, Ms. Burke?
I want to go back to something that Ms. Osowski said on wanting tax incentives to go to single-family home buyers. I don't think we're able to legally do that. How awesome it would be, though. But Mr. Gofstad?
The project is defined as a revenue-producing enterprise. A single-family house is probably not going to fit within the definition of a revenue-producing enterprise.
How many residential houses would, if a developer, I'm sorry I will come back to you, but if a developer came and said, I'm going to build 15 homes this year, would that count?
I think under those contexts, the developer would probably fit within the definition of a revenue-producing enterprise. In fact, there is an Attorney General's opinion that I just recently read talking about a building that was simply, there wasn't any revenue, they were hoping for increased valuation over time. And the AG determined that that would be a factual determination if the local governing body decided that was revenue producing. The issue, though, is going to be once you grant that pilot, then you're going to have an assignment of that portion of that area. And the assignment would then have to be re-looked at when you sell that personal residence. And at that point, I'm not sure you'd qualify for the pilot.
Sure. Interesting. Okay. Ms. Berg, further comments? Yes, Ms. Lansky?
So you guys have other buildings. So a two-bedroom would be about $1,100 at this new place. What is an average two-bedroom in another building?
The new ones that we're putting up right now are Memorial Village or some of the ones downtown Pure Development or Franklin across the street. Two bed, two baths are anywhere from
$1,625.
Anywhere from 15 to 18, 1900 exactly. They could be anywhere in there. We're about 25 to 30% lower across the board.
And bless you. Further, Mr. Veen, any comments for the good of the order?
No, nothing additional.
Thank you.
Support what's going on. So.
Thank you. No further comments. There is a motion and a second. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissents. Thank you. Item 3.2, Altru Sports Complex projected guaranteed maximum price bid package number 2. Mr. Phelan.
Thank you, Council President Sandy and members of the committee of the whole. We're back here for just a single motion, which is GMP number 2, and I just want to highlight some of the particulars. Right now, GMP package number 2 is estimated at $37,786,979. That's what we're asking currently right now for GMP 2. We've talked about that over the last couple of meetings. There likely will be, it'll probably be revised downward if we can, and I'll just point out a few things in that regard. We were here, I just want to let you know that also includes $8.449 million in engineering and testing costs. It also includes a construction contingency of $2.3 million plus, and all the alternatives that we did bid from the deep dive well, the elevated track, the partitions, dividing curtains, and the liner panel. Also wanted to point out, right now, we have the construction management team and our architect here from JLG. And so Mr. Sandy asked a good question right now. Right now, if you look down on, when we look on the estimate that McGough has provided, it shows that we have $8.449 million in design fees and testing. And so Maureen and I are working with the architect about what that dollar amount will be based upon what the GMP is, based upon some of the alternative reviews that we've accomplished. Right now, we think that number, when we come back here a week from today at the city council, we anticipate that dollar being less. So right now, it likely is between 7.8 to $7.9 million. So we're going to likely see an additional savings of about $500,000 from that. So that'll go to the savings. The other three things that we're working on right now that I think all three will only lower the GMP that are still in discussion right now. One is the bid number 37, which is the synthetic turf. Right now, the bids range from $594,000 to $887,000. In GMP2, right now, we have the higher dollar amount, but we're trying to revise what we're going to recommend as the lowest and best turf. But we do have the higher number in there. The other one was this resilient, or I should say bid number 38, which is the resilient athletic flooring, which would be on the sprint track and also the walking track. Those bids range from $490,000 to $573,000. So again, the construction manager is going through that. We have the higher dollar amount in there too. And then finally, the deep dip, we're still trying to work on the final number on the deep dive well cover. And so everything's included in the deep dive well, except there's a unique cover that's going to go on there. We do have a plug number in there that we think is higher than what it's actually going to come in. So we're hoping to revise, if not all, some of that for next week so that we can tell you, here's the revised GMP with all the items. We may have to do a reconciliation later, but we'll highlight some things that we haven't come to a conclusion on. But if the dollar amount is less than what we had in GMP2, we'll come back to revise and reconcile that particular number. So the bottom line is, when we were here last time on July 3rd, this estimate was, what we had left was $20,097,000. Right now it shows the bottom line of $20,840,000. And then in the staff report, I also added the revenue from UND at 1.334. So we're about $22 million plus that we have for a budget surplus on the project. We anticipate that going a little bit higher based upon the things that we're working on this week. But with that, I have any questions, and we have some of the experts here if you have any specific questions.
Ms. Osowski?
Yeah, I'm really excited that our original project came in under budget, so I am going to motion approval. But I do have one question. Down in the area where it does talk about the Red River BMX track requesting the funds, and it does state in here that I think it's JLG they have the right to incorporate and change. That'll still have to come back to council though, right? Even though it has that wording in there.
Anything related to the Red River BMX track.
I'm really happy that the original project came in under budget, so thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I already motioned it.
Well, I'm just confirming.
Sorry, yes, I motion approval.
My heart skipped a little bit. Yep. Mr. Friedhoff, seconds. Yep. Great. Further comments? Mr. Veen? Yes, sir?
Yeah, Mr. Sandy, you and I did talk a little bit about the fees, and I think you mentioned, is it based on percentage or is it a negotiated fixed fee?
Council President Sandy and Councilmember Veen, it's on a percentage. So it's an AIA, so it's a percentage of all the various tasks.
Of all the various things.
All the various tasks.
So when the prices
But it
came
is
down-
based on the construction dollar amount, which has gone down, therefore their fee has gone down.
Okay, so, and then you mentioned somewhere those percentages were basically, would seem realistic. I like the idea you're talking about, there's still some alternatives you're looking at different pricing for. I mean, the turf, and I'm assuming with various turfs, you have different qualities, longevity, and all of that. On what's the criteria when you're comparing those? Do you typically use to select the correct one? Not just the cheapest, or is it the one best? I mean, quality, which matters a lot. So
Yep.
what's the basis you use?
Council President Sandy and Councilmember, I'll have our guys come up here too, but we had a basis of design for the turf and also that synthetic liner for the track and stuff. And so there is a basis of design. The basis of design, some of the higher bids came in with the basis of design. And so what we've asked the construction manager is to do a review to make sure that the others didn't meet that basis of design. that we did go after per the design and what the construction manager bid out. So that's what we're reviewing at this point in time. I think we've narrowed it down to 2 or 3 firms. There's going to be a bit of a show and tell and have them present on, their particular product and why it's, the best quality and all those sorts of things based upon our design that we put out.
Yeah, because you'd have quality, you would have installment and experience, all those things will then be looked at in each of these cases, right?
Yes, durability, all those sorts of things, yep.
And then I know we had some question on the pool decking materials, and there's some new pricing and stuff. I would hope we could just take a look at that before next week, too.
Yep. I know there's, we got an email later today from Mr. Stromberg, so that was more of a synthetic on the pool deck versus what we have with, I think it was called the swirled concrete, which is kind of the medium level that we can do. So there are some reviews going on with if we want to go to that higher level. That was, from the information I received from Mr. Stromberg, it looked like a $200,000 to $300,000 ad to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Further questions, thoughts? Mr. Phelan, I don't need it now. Can somebody send me, I don't recall seeing that percentage of the fees for engineering and design. Can somebody send, when did we cover that? So just send out the date and I'll go back and look at it. That's no big deal.
I will. It was part of their original agreement when they went from design to construction. It's breaking down to, their 100% is broken down to the various tasks based on, but I'll send that out. That's what we're working through right now with their ultimate fee.
Thank you, appreciate it. There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any other comments or thoughts? Yes, Ms. Linsky?
So basis of design, I know you just explained it, but can you go a little deeper? I don't quite understand basis of design.
The basis of design, remember when we first started this project, we wanted to, it really sets the course for the project. And kind of what kind of quality, what kind of size, what kind of features we want out of the facility. So when we were here, it feels like a year ago, but maybe it was 9 months, we were talking about the basis of design so that we could really put our arms around what kind of facility we wanted, and then from there we went to design development, and then we went to construction development, and then we ultimately bid the project. That's why we always encouraged you. At each step along the way, the design gets more and more refined, and our estimates get more and more until we ultimately bid it. Kind of the basis of design is what we're going to plan to do, probably start that all go over if we move forward with the hard courts, is where we're headed on a basis of design and ultimately getting to a real bid.
So the design of the building is basically done, correct?
It is.
Now we just have to work out the details?
Right now with the current facility, we've gone through construction design and bidding. What we're working out right now are the various bids that we received, just to get the highest quality we can for the best price is where we are right now. And we're really down to the two things, the turf and that synthetic liner that's going to go around the track. So, and some of these things, there's, every vendor thinks their quality is the best. You got to design them and bid them, and so it's fair and equal. So that's what we're trying to do on those two things. Some things are pretty apparent, like when you bid concrete. Generally, that's an easier thing. Some of these specialty things are a little harder to determine.
Thank you.
Great. Again, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any additional comment or thoughts? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Item 3.3, grant funding agreement between North Dakota Parks and Recreation and the City of Grand Forks for Downtown Gateway and Greenway Project Phase 1. Ms. Parvey, good evening.
Good evening, Council President, Sandy, and members of the committee. So before you tonight is the grant. We actually had received word last fall that we received the funding from Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is through the National Park Service Department of Interior. It did take us this long just to get the wording of the grant, or the agreement for the grant developed, and so that's what's brought before you this evening to accept that. We did get a pre-award in that grant application, and so In January, we actually had awarded the design to Houston Engineering and RDG, and so we've been working on the detailed design mostly through what the Corps of Engineers requires and what FEMA requires, and that's with the hydraulic analysis. And then we have gotten to the point where we were gathering some public input. So right before the meeting, we were in Farmers Market over the weekend and received some comments on what people really thought would be beneficial to include in this area. If you recall, this area was specifically chosen because it was in that Justice 40. It's an area that is designated as a disadvantaged status, so that's why we chose this particular site. This weekend, a number of families were by, and we had a lot of parents and children together commenting on what type of structures they'd like to see, how they're really excited about additional access to the river and improvements along the riverbank there, as well as just the natural spaces that we can continue to keep within this project area. If you recall, it's just to the south of the Sorley Bridge. And so if the grant is approved tonight or the grant agreement goes forward to council, this is what you see on your screen was actually shared with the public and is on a social pinpoint that Houston Engineering is operating for us to gather public input. So it shows those detailed designs as they're being developed along with our project schedule. And so the conceptual plan and renderings is what we were receiving some input on, and different types of features are included in there. So the main questions were, do you like to see the riverscape? Are you more impressed by the trails? Do you like to see catfish or steamboats that could possibly be interpreted in there? And actually one of the areas that they were most excited about was kind of climbing in play area structures. So as you can see, there's some taller features in there where you could climb up and have a higher visual. ADA accessibility was really important to be able to provide us with that too. So this is the actual board that was shown at Farmers Market on Saturday. And then kids could vote and parents could talk about what they actually want to see in those spaces with this project development. So if there's any questions regarding the grant itself and the project and the timeline that we're looking at.
Thank you, Ms. Parvey. I'm reading some of the notes that were left, and the one I was chuckling because one of these people suggests that we need to have public bathrooms open year-round, morning to night. That's going to be a tough one, but I'm glad that people are providing feedback. Anyone have any thoughts or comments? Mr. Friedhouse, yes, sir.
Does the grant have an expiration to it? Like, is there you have to spend it all by X amount, obviously, but?
Yeah, it's, I believe, by 2029. So we actually have in our timeline to be able to be done with the project by 2027, but we do have some time to provide that funding, absolutely.
Okay.
The city's match of it, the mayor had recommended and asked us to include it as 4154, so the flood protection capital dollars would upfront it, and then economic development funds would pay for that. So Marine has calculated out that it'd be about $175,000 over a 20-year time frame to pay that fund back, and that's where the matching fund for the city's portion of it would be from.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Sosky.
So, you know, we're voting on this, and then 3.4 are proposed enhancements to the flood protection and greenway. I guess, why can't this project be a part of the funding for the grant?
They're two separate areas, and so the grant, the funding for this grant and for this project is specifically downtown. It's because of that designated area. In the downtown area, the next agenda item is actually in the south end of town near River's Edge, and that's been a project we've been working on. It's a separate project, so the funding with that is actually through, we receive funding from outdoor heritage funds through the state and then Garrison Diversion to help fund that project. We're also looking at additional funding opportunities that can help support the city's share of this downtown project, although we haven't received any to date. We're just compiling that now, and actually we would submit a grant at the end of the month that could help support this initial first project if we...
Would you be able to use the money, like from the Garrison Water Diversion or whatever, for the city's match on this? No?
No, it was submitted for that particular project, the River's Edge Trail and fishing enhancements
And this is not the final
design.
design, correct?
We're just, right now, we're gathering input so that we can continue to develop the design. The intent is to be able to bid it out, possibly this winter, early spring, so that we can start construction on it next year and into 2027.
Okay, I did read one of the comments, that I did chuckle at the bathroom one also. I mean, we live in North Dakota, it gets cold, things freeze. We can't have bathrooms open all the time on the Greenway. But, one thing that someone did write on there is that they appreciate how quiet and how in tune with nature the Greenway is. And so I would really hate to disrupt some of that. But otherwise, I move approval.
Okay, well, there's a motion to approve, second by Lunsky. Yes, Ms. Lunsky, comment?
Do you have a plan for maintaining it, or like who's gonna lock the bathrooms at night?
Well, currently, the bathrooms are taken care of through Town Square. With I don't know if the Downtown Development Association still does that, or if our Urban Development Office still does that. I apologize, I don't know who locks the bathrooms downtown, but we would work with them, and then if we had any sort of improvements, the Park District actually locks the other restrooms that are located in the Greenway for the city of Grand Forks. They're managed and maintained by them. So we wouldn't anticipate any changes. We actually have talked about additional restroom facilities that could be temporarily placed in these areas during high season or like during special events, how they bring in certain types of facilities, porta potties, et cetera, that are a little bit nicer.
And is there a spot you can rent out parts, like at the or at the parks, you can rent the canopy deals?
Right now, this space would just be open to the public at all times. There wouldn't be a park shelter to actually rent out. There is park shelters within this space, but they actually weren't, the plan wasn't to reserve them at this point in time, but if we wanted to look into that, we certainly could.
I have one more comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Veen, question, sir?
Yeah, a couple questions. I love the renderings. I mean, they're really beautiful, but I am concerned a little bit with what we're talking about. This isn't a flood-prone area, and you will have the potential for ice and other actions on here. So it may be limiting what you can actually do versus what you propose, and I'm sure you will be thinking a lot about that when the actual design will come back, and we should see that when it comes time to bid it, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And we did really look at this space. This is on the high area, and we actually haven't seen floodwaters reach this point to date. Not that it can't, and that's what we have that flood protection system for. But we've gotten a lot of support from the Corps of Engineers, working with them on actually building things into the levee and really tying up into that higher ground, actually being able to go up on top of the levee. And so we're kind of excited about that. But yes, cognizant
Yeah, I saw
of
some of them were at the same level as the top. You could walk off the top of the levee, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Ms. Osowski?
Yeah, currently, the Greenway Association manages the Greenway, is that correct? Ms. Greendahl manages the whole Greenway?
Actually, the city of Grand Forks employs one employee, and Kim Greendahl is in that position for the city of Grand Forks.
Okay.
The areas within the flood protection project are all owned by the city of Grand Forks. The Park District does manage and maintain certain aspects of that. One of those is the dog park, which is in the Greenway. So between the city of Grand Forks and the Grand Forks Park District, we manage and maintain everything on the North Dakota side of the Greenway. The Minnesota DNR and the East Grand Forks Parks and Recreation work on management on the other side of the river, but we all work very closely together.
I guess, I'll be looking more at the final project, when it comes through, but I think, keeping it low maintenance is very important. We already have a real hard time keeping up with some of the riffraff that goes on in our town square. And so I would just hate to create another area where some of that stuff then just moves to the other side of the flood wall. And I think, what Ms. Lunsky said, just being real cautious about what we build down there and making sure that it's as maintenance-free as we can make it, because I don't know if we have the staff to maintain a large public area like this to the standards that maybe it should be maintained to. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Ms. Parvey, so looking at the images, this looks like a big outdoor park, right? This in family-friendly kids, but park. When we were talking and when we were looking at previously looking at images and pictures, we were seeing some shelters and a building here and there and maybe a theater. And what we're seeing here is nothing like the images that we saw previously. The reason I'm bringing this up is we've got, okay, we're approving, working with North Dakota Parks, and it's $6.5 or $7 million. The Grand Forks Park District has already commissioned a study and designed a plan for a destination park for the community of Grand Forks. They've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that already. Are we talking to them at all about this? Because I would think that their designs, a lot of them could be encapsulated in what we're talking about doing.
We do work very closely with the Grand Forks Park District. There's a Greenway Technical Committee, and so that group actually meets on a monthly basis. I know that destination parks are awesome. We've talked about Sherlock Park a little bit. I had some discussions with Ms. Lunsky about that too, about, that park is really heavily used, and it's, we see kids from all over kind of congregate at that. So destination parks are really important. We were looking at incorporating nature play, nature-inspired play, climbing, things that necessarily aren't always done in our parks. So yes, we are working with them, but this space is a little bit different in the fact that it's an area that's designated for people that are underserved. And so it's free outdoor play in this space downtown because of the population that we have within this area. So we are working with them, but it would just be an additional space that's developed for those reasons downtown.
Sure, but it's essentially going to become a destination park.
We hope so, yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we're duplicating efforts. I'm not saying we shouldn't move forward. What we're talking about here is committing to the agreement with the state. I feel like whether maybe I missed it. Again, I didn't recognize in January when we approved doing this that we were designing a destination park, or I would have suggested we should ask the park district for their plans and save $600,000. But that's just me. All right, well, there's a motion and a second. Yes, Ms. Lunsky?
I just found out that the town square bathrooms are not unlocked every day. They're only unlocked for events. So I think we really need to think about who's going to care for this space and maintain it.
Good idea. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Parvey. Item 3.4, proposed enhancements to the area of the flood protection greenway system near River's Edge. Ms. Parvey.
So I kind of talked a little bit about this previously. So we did receive funding. It was a project that this group wasn't sure that they wanted to support, and so we told the neighborhood that we would bring this back and see if you guys still wanted to proceed with it. It's about a $500,000 project. It really does extend the trail in the south end of the greenway to an area that currently is being used for fishing that really is unsightly and not well maintained. This project was well received by Garrison Diversion, and we had received that funding, and then we brought it forward to the Outdoor Heritage Fund, and they liked the project, and the Industrial Commission, who approves their projects, had approved funding for that as well. So we have a little over $200,000 received in funding for the project. The city's share would then either come from the stormwater undesignated revenue cash that we have. So basically, we've set aside money for projects, but this one wasn't designated funding. And then we also have it listed in our 4154 as a project that we had recommended funding before as well. So there's some options if we choose to proceed with this project.
Thank you, Ms. Parvey. Mrs. Osowski?
Yeah, I have a comment. I guess I disagree that we should be spending an additional $500,000 or doing this project. We already are putting, $6 million into the greenway. It bothers me that you just can't take some of that money and put it towards the other part of the greenway, but I don't approve of this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Ms. Lensky, comment? Well, yeah, I'll just say that, like, maybe we should go back in history of how this started. I think that the police department was having issues with some young people spending time down in that area, and when they were spending time there, some of them were not there with the best of intentions, having campfires, busting up trees, perhaps some graffiti. And so the concept was that we would clean it up and provide access to that area through a parking lot and then a path that would make it easy for people to access and therefore spur additional use of the bank for fishing. If you all recall, the neighbors didn't want a parking lot in their neighborhood, and they weren't interested in fishing there. And when the parking lot went away, therefore the immediate path to the area went away. And so ultimately it's boiled down to the police department want an easy way, or we want an easy way for our police department to get there to take care of the occasional problem with juvenile delinquents. And we're talking about spending $500,000 to put in a 2-block bike path so it's easier for our PD to police this area. My personal opinion is we should hire another police officer and have them patrol that area if we're going to spend that kind of money. To me, it just doesn't make any sense that we would put that kind of dollars into a bike path or a path that is supposed to make it more accessible, yet it's two blocks. And then there's nowhere to park when you pull up on 47th, or can't remember if it's River's Edge or what the road is there, 47th Avenue South. There's nowhere for people to park right there. I just, I can't seem to wrap my arms around, even though we got $200,000 in grant funds, I can't wrap my arms around why we should be putting $300,000 into a bike path right there. But I've been wrong before, and if people disagree, I don't have any hard feelings. It's just my opinion. Mr. Veen, yes, sir?
Just a question on the grant funds. I know the garrison diversion funds need to be spent within like 2 to 3 years, I believe. Is there a restriction on the other grant funds too? And can the concept evolve from what we have today if we didn't spend the money now and did it at a different time?
I'm not sure with Outdoor Heritage on the timeline. I know I can check on that and get back to you. I apologize. I don't recall when they need to be spent by.
Ms. Lensky?
So how would someone get to this location? They have to bike there, or can they park? They can't park on the street?
You could park on this, do side. You can park on the side of the street in any of those areas, but it's mostly intended for those that are either in the neighborhood or that have access to that trail system that want to utilize that fishing site. People can travel from, if they're able, different distances, so it could be more than just for this neighborhood, but it's definitely to address what's going on in that area currently.
And so if someone did park on the street, would they wouldn't go through someone's yard, would they? Is there?
No, you would access the trail system, probably at 47th, or I'm sorry, right at 49th, where it goes up and over the levee would be the best, kind of like you do at the Sunbeam Trail access. There is a parking lot there, but it goes up and over the levee, so you would access that trail system.
Have you had any comments from the neighbors about how they feel?
We received public comment, I believe it was almost 2 years ago, and there's mixed feelings. I shared the comments, I think the last time the report was brought, and so some people are for it and some people don't believe it needs to be there. We have, over the years, realized that as you develop these spaces, they do become, there becomes more traffic, better use of the area, therefore it's kept up and well maintained, and therefore we do see less of the typical behavior that we don't want to see occur when we do develop it and people come down there and use it for the right reasons.
And so last time you brought this up, there was a rendering. Could you include that for next week?
Yes, yep, it's actually attached. It's probably just not as easy to see with the black and white, but it should be an exhibit. But yeah, I can share that again as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Burke?
How far from this location is the next closest fishing location?
Well, we don't really have a lot of developed fishing locations. There is one downtown, but it's kind of an ad hoc fishing site. So you have to kind of traverse down the riverbank to get there. This would actually be an accessible site that you could utilize. It's a little bit more, it's a little bit higher up. We don't actually have the developed sites anywhere else along the river, so.
So this is creating a new opportunity for the city?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
It's actually not. It's currently available.
It's enhancing the current space that's
Sure.
there, yeah.
I think it's exciting that we received grant funding to move forward with this. I like Ken's idea of potential alternative designs for it as well, to see what else we could do with it. But I'll motion to approve.
There's a motion by Berg to approve. Is there a second? Second by Friedos. Thank you, Mr. Friedos. Mr. Veen, yes, sir?
Would there be a potential to do a phase project? I know we took some of that out. Can we bring some of that parking back in again? If we did this as a first phase and still eventually.
Absolutely, yeah, we could look
proceed
at,
with instead of saying it's out, it's can be phased?
I think any amenities that you want to add later to support it absolutely could be added. If there was a desire and interest, yep.
Yeah, because I think on its own, I agree with Mr. Sandy, it's probably problematic, but
Further comment, Mr. Weigel? Yes, sir?
Just looking at the numbers for the estimated cost, the one thing I was wondering is, when we look at, obviously, these are just estimates. I'd be curious to see what the actual bids come back at, to see if we are going to be allocating as much money as we're looking at in here. So I guess I'd be curious just to kind of see where we're at with some of the bids that have been coming back relatively well.
When would the project be bid, Ms. Barbie?
We had talked about bidding it later this year, so for construction of next year. So we can definitely walk through that process to see where we're at.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Osowski and Sandy dissent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barbie. 3.5, reappointments to Grand Forks Historic Preservation Commission. Anyone have any
approval.
issues? Thank you,
second.
Mr. Weigel. Second by Osowski. For Dr. Munsky, Mr. Brian Larson, Ms. Nicole Doreen, and Ms. Judy Swisher. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.6, 2026 CDBG program. Good evening.
Good evening, President Sandy, members of the committee. I'm here a little earlier than normal. Normally you see me in October, but we're looking to kick off our 2026 CDBG application process. After some feedback over the last year or so, when we've had some timeliness issues with timely expenditure, HUD has suggested to us that we begin this process earlier. It allows us to start our planning for projects earlier, environmental reviews, things of that nature. So we're just looking to start this process earlier, get everything approved before the end of the year, and then we have a few more months before Congress usually passes a budget for us to actually get projects underway. Slight decrease in the anticipated entitlement funding for CDBG. We were about 9,000 less than we anticipated for 2025. That's within our contingency, so every project will be funded for 2025, but we did lower our estimated entitlement funding to 425 this year, or for 2026. Total amount expected to be available for competitive CDBG capital or for bricks and mortar grants is $400,000. And the Community Advisory Committee has approved the process you see in your staff report before you. The feedback they had is they didn't they hesitated to set any priorities for this coming year. The reason being is there's a constantly changing landscape for funding, both federally and for many nonprofits. The needs are constantly changing, and a lot of those were taken into account. There was a very long discussion among the committee, and in an effort to be more nimble and responsive to the needs of the community, they'd rather see the results that come back from an open application process and then go from there. So with that, I'll stand before you for approval of the 2026 allocation process.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Any questions from Mr. Hanson?
Just to clarify, this is all state funds, correct? That,
These are
there's
federal-
federal funds that get distributed, there's no city cost, correct?
This is exclusively federal funding, correct?
Okay, and when you talked about just like opening up the applications, you're talking about not really having a theme, like we had last year, wasn't it quality of life?
Last year
Or
we focused on.
homelessness?
Yes, homelessness
Okay.
and homelessness prevention.
And then I think the year before was quality of life, so now we're just going to open it up to anybody?
Sort of. So we have a 5-year consolidated plan, which we approved, which is a very broad plan, but within that, affordable housing, creation of rental affordable housing or homeowner housing, public facilities, supporting the mission, supporting Spectra Health, anything that generally benefits low to moderate income persons are eligible to apply. So a lot of those nonprofit agencies can come forward with a proposal for a bricks and mortar project.
So was it the committee's decision not really to have like a theme this year, or was
Yeah, that's
it
the
us
committee's-
not giving you direction?
It's the
It's a request from the committee, essentially.
Oh.
Right, Mr. Hanson?
Yes, it's the committee's recommendation that no priorities be set to see what applications come in, but this body could set priorities if they wish.
I mean, I don't know what the priority is or what it should be, but I would like to see some kind of priority in there to more align with maybe where we want to go instead of just opening it up to anybody. I appreciate the priorities. So I guess that's,
Ms. Lunsky serves on that
Yeah.
board. Perhaps you could enlighten us. Thank you.
Yes, I think because there were so many changes coming with the budget that we just didn't know where the need was going to be the greatest.
The federal budget, correct?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry. So that's where we kind of wanted to keep it open. And it's, you have to be a nonprofit. It's not like I can apply for a pool in my backyard. So we kind of thought we should keep it open because there's just so much need in the community right now.
I guess like speaking of priorities, one thing that I would like to see is local nonprofits receive the funds and not so much like these larger corporations that come in here and try to help out. I would like to see it more be on the local side. I think our mission is a great place. We're one of their only funding sources. People like the Salvation Army and United Way, I mean, they're so huge that they get funding from people, outside of our community. And I would really like to support the nonprofits that are just operating here locally that really do need our help, that might not have some of the access to these funds unless we do support them. So I would prefer to see something like that. I mean, like Spectra is an excellent one. They're just local. Our mission is local. There are a lot of good local charities. I mean, the Listen Center, that's local. I would like us to stick to more local charities if other people would maybe like to support that.
Ms. Lunsky?
The United Way and Salvation Army, if they receive the funds do stay here. So it's not like it's going to
Right.
their, correct?
Correct. In terms of the funding they would receive, if an agency like that received funding, it's on a reimbursement basis. We verify that the funds are spent locally and stay locally. It's very much on a project basis.
Right. I guess I wasn't arguing that because I know we've had that discussion. I was just thinking about the local charities that, are not part of the larger charity organizations like the Mission. They don't have, the mission in Connecticut isn't sending money to help support our mission when United Way, they probably split up their funds and help their chapters all around the United States, if not the world. And so I would prefer that we help the smaller local charities that really don't have other options.
I will say the United Way is the only place in town that has a family shelter. So I don't know if we want to restrict it too much.
I thought that house that we
Which is-
opened up,
The United Way.
I thought we gave that to, like the housing authority that's running that.
That's a
United.
different shelter.
So you're,
That's the low barrier shelter. Ms. Lunsky is referring to the United Way purchased a 12-plex. They've
Okay.
renovated it and they're using it for homeless families.
okay. I guess I personally would like to see it stay with the smaller ones, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Burke?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that a lot of the local, or I think all of the nonprofits here in Grand Forks, even if they have a connection to a nationwide, like United Way, they're not necessarily receiving funds from all over the world. Agencies are competing against each other. United Way versus United Way of Connecticut, they're not receiving funding from Joe Schmo in New York. It's typically local dollars staying local. And so I think the committee was spot on with not knowing what the precedent or priority is going to be when those CDBG applications are reviewed. And so I think it's important that we keep an open mind on what the priority is going to be at that time, because it is ever-changing. So with that, I'd motion to approve.
So there's a motion by the Trishas. So your motion is to not have a recommendation and leave it up to the committee depending upon the applicants. Thank you.
Just
Yes,
one
Mr.
quick
Weigel.
comment. Mr. Conlon, when some of these bricks and mortar programs come through, are we typically seeing that when they receive the grant and they replace their HVAC system, is that going to local contractors or is that going to contractors in Fargo or Minot or somewhere else? I'm assuming it's probably typical that it's a Grand Forks contractor.
I would say typically Grand Forks contractors tend to win on those, like the Grand Forks Senior Center, 2.54 million went to Innis is the general.
Okay.
And a lot of those other mechanical and electrical folks are local. They tend to be local. I don't have the numbers offhand to give you a percentage or anything.
Perfect. Thank you.
Further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissents. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Item 3.7, a bid award for 8974 Central Parking Ramp Elevator Modernization 415 First Avenue North. Bid came in 12% under engineer's
I'd like
estimate.
to give Ms. Edwardson the night off
Moved
and
by
move
Weigel.
approval.
Thank you. Second by Osowski. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 3.8, agreement for 8959 preliminary engineering, South 48th Street and South 42nd Street, 32nd Avenue South to 62nd Avenue South. Mr. Krinkle, good evening.
Good evening, President Sandy and members of the committee. As you all know, we are working our way towards a new 47th Avenue interchange. We've got some active projects that are working to extend 47th Avenue from the east, from Columbia towards the interstate. This project is looking on the west side, looking at how 42nd is going to end up getting realigned, how we're going to end up extending 48th, and then connecting 47th as well. This project is geared towards those conceptual layouts, looking at utility master plans, and then ultimately acquiring the right-of-way. We did go through a selection process with this one. We got 3 consultant engineers that submitted for it: Houston, Bolton, and Mencken KLJ. And through the selection process, it was determined that Houston Engineering was the most qualified for the project. We ended up going through a negotiation process, looking at the scope and fee, which ultimately resulted in a not-to-exceed value of $349,033.98. Taking into consideration some of the comments that we've received from council in the past regarding rack rates and trying to bring some of those costs down, we did end up using a cost plus fixed fee model on this one, which is similar to what the DOT uses, and it was similar to what we used up on 70th Avenue for that project as well. Staff is recommending approval of the task order, and I can stand for any questions you may have.
Questions for Mr. Krinko?
Move approval.
Moved by Weigel, second by Osowski. Mr. Krinko, I have a couple of questions for you. Thank you very much for working hard to try to keep costs down. Now I'm going to ask you questions about the costs of this project.
Absolutely.
On page 11, under item 10.0, sub-consultants, 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3 talk about the subcontractors to Houston Engineering, and it specifically says, and I quote, "See attached for scope details," including the sub-consultants, Messenger, DKJ, Braun, Metcalf. Those aren't attached to this.
That is correct. That total agreement is actually a lot larger than I think the 10 pages or so I had attached. So I ended up just trying to incorporate the pertinent pages.
I'd like to see what we're paying the subcontractors and what their expenses and fees are additionally.
Absolutely.
I have a direct question regarding the pricing that they provided. Cost summary on page 13. Can you tell me what indirect costs are?
Indirect costs are primarily essentially your overhead costs, your building, your management, those kinds of fees that are associated with that.
Aren't profits typically built into your overhead costs or your indirect costs?
That I don't know offhand, but these are based on rates that I believe are audited.
Yep, I believe it. All I'm going to say is without actually going through a competitive bidding process on pricing, we have no idea if they're only making 12% on this. Staff report says we're paying them a fixed 12%. I don't believe it. I believe there's all sorts of profit in their indirect costs, but I have no proof of that because I have nothing to back this up. That's just my gut feeling based upon profit takers like I would be, because that's what I would do if I were in their situation. So, but I really do appreciate that you guys are paying attention and doing the best you can. Could we get those documents for next week, please?
Absolutely.
Great. Anyone else have any? Yes, Ms. Linsky.
Can you explain what do you mean we don't take the lowest bid?
Mr. Krinko, would you want to explain to her the RFQ process?
When it comes to selection of engineers, we end up going through a selection process where we end up advertising for it. Consultants will end up submitting a package of information, go through an interview process, and then we end up selecting a consultant who we feel is the most qualified for that particular project. It is not a bidding process, it's based on qualifications. And then after that, we negotiate the scope and fee.
So I guess I was thinking the RFQ, you figured out if they were qualified and then they bid. So we got rid of the bidding process altogether?
There is not a bidding process with that process.
And why do we do that?
I'll actually end up looking over to Al on this one because I believe that's a process we end up using because of, is that state statute, North Dakota Century Code?
President Sandy, Council. Basically, it's state law and it's federal law that you select professional services, certain professional services you base on qualifications. The reason for that is a lot of times when a project like this, you're in the initial phase, you can't detail out all the pieces. It's not like a bid project where we create stacks of paper that tell the contractor this is exactly what you got to do, this is when you got to do it, and what you have to produce. Professional services it's like your doctors and attorneys and things like that. A lot of times what you're getting into, especially on the beginning end of it, you don't have a really good handle. You're trying to figure out what the project is ultimately going to be. For instance, on this one, we don't know if the road's going to go straight. We don't know if it's going to curve this way or that way, or tie 42nd in various manners. So that's why, it's a very open, you're looking for the best qualified person or firm to be able to do that. And I'll preempt Council President Sandy, when you see the documents, this process that we're doing, which I think is reducing some of the engineering costs. The process that we're doing is really highly tied to the North Dakota DOT. To your points and questions, they're defining what types of activities or costs go into certain buckets, right? And so they then do the auditing of those things. Without that, yeah, it would be an awful process trying to figure out how to audit all those different activities within the calculations. But having said that, you will see things like, I think, testing services for soil and different things like that, that the DOT doesn't have an audit process for that. So some of those subcontract type of things, you will see, more their standardized rates. So.
Does that answer your question?
DOT sets the rates?
State of North Dakota
Thank you.
legislature.
But there was a time before somebody had discovered this concept of an RFQ where we still built roads. Like this is not, we're designing roads. We've been doing it for years. That's rhetorical, Mr. Grasser. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be snarky. I don't. We're designing some roads. We've been doing this your team has designed roads, Al.
I can build the road, I just don't know where I'm building it at yet.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had the public, sorry, I'm maybe getting.
Doesn't matter. I get it.
Off base here too, but the point is at this level, we don't really know. We're evaluating alternatives. You're looking for people that have the best qualifications to evaluate those kinds of things in consideration of, operational parameters, cost of construction and things like that. So that's why you're looking, you don't have the project defined enough to really nail somebody down on a cost.
Are they going to then give us all the parameters so it's refined so that we can low price bid the construction of these roads?
It's part of what we do on the engineering side.
Perfect.
Engineering department is we'll look at that and we'll bring those things back. We'll bring back the alternatives, and part of it gets to be identifying what the local property owners are willing to help, what works for them. Because there are some of the designs that we're looking at right, with the DOT. If you think back on, and I think there's even a drawing in there, 42nd Street has some sweeping curves and stuff. We've heard right away during the even in the interchange process, the developers have a hard time figuring out how to efficiently use land when you're making these weird slivers and curves and things like that. So that's part of what they're going to look at. I mean, that has literally multi-million-dollar impacts on land development and stuff. So you want to make sure you got the right people to be able to look at that, because there's a lot more to it. Once we get to the construction side, that's a different, that's kind of a different bucket. But right now we're looking at how do we efficiently build out there, and again, work with the developers.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Grasser. Mr. Veen, comments?
You opened the door. I have to.
Jump in.
To respond. I think Mr. Grasser said it pretty accurately. I think the difference, like when a contractor bids, he has a complete set of plans and specifications, and every contractor is bidding that same scope. And what's happening here is that scope is not well defined yet. And so without that, each person who would be bidding on a scope which is not defined. So really what you want to do is look at the qualifications of the designer. Some people are much more qualified to do a project. Not every civil engineer, for instance, knows structural and can figure out how to do bridges. You want to go to somebody who specializes and knows that and has the qualifications to do it. They can design a safer and I think a less costly project in the long run if you make sure you have the most qualified person on doing the project. So as far as the cost, that's what we rely on our staff for. They look at those qualifications, look at the number of hours and the scope of what that designer is going to do, decide whether it's enough or more, and negotiate that so you get the most qualified person at the most realistic prices as you would go forth, which really gives us the best value when we're done.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Further comments or questions? There's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Krinko, Mr. Grasser for the assist. Item 3.9, change order number 1, Project 8921, Highway 81 Associated Area Sanitary Sewer Phase 3.
Thank you,
Mr.
Vice
Grasser.
President Sandy. I just thought I'd stay up here.
Yep. Great.
I do appreciate the questions. Those are all good, challenging questions. We're happy to answer and fall back on or fill out. This item here, if you remember last council meeting, we actually had, it started with a request by some of the property owners up at Highway 81 to get a little earlier installation of sanitary sewer. The last council meeting, we actually approved the process whereby we adjusted the special assessment district engineer's report, things like that, to add it to an existing bid that we have. So we got good bids. We've got the project basically designed through the engineering team and stuff already. This is the actual implementation of that concept. It's adding the change order to the contractor and then adjusting the engineering services to add in the inspections and things like that are going with it.
So, Mr. Grasser, can we just a quick explanation? Change order 1 has a cost of $814,000 and it exceeds your authority. The award bid for the project was about $2.6 million, but task order amendment number 1 is only in the amount of $57,000 when the original task order for the project is $256,494. What exactly are we actually approving tonight?
You're approving the change order to the contractor that's actually going to be doing the piping work, and then you're also, the task order is associated with Webster Foster Weston, who's been the engineer on that. So that finishes off the design.
Got
that
it.
does the field inspection and those activities.
So it's part of it is for the design, part of it is for the construction.
Right. They could have been two separate items. We just chose to combine the two together.
Seems reasonable to me. Any comments or thoughts? Yes,
Move
Mr.
approval.
Weigel moves approval. Is there a second by Berg? Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
Thank you. Item 310, citizen comment policy. This is a required update based upon the North Dakota legislature's actions. The legislature made some changes to the requirements for public hearings, and the governor signed it. Would you like to add to that? Thank you. Good evening.
The only thing I'd like to add is this one isn't going to require 2 readings. If it's approved next week, it'll be approved.
Very good. So we have some decisions to make. Of course, this applies to all public bodies, correct? So like the Planning and Zoning Commission now has to have public comment at every meeting, or
That is my understanding, but I will follow up with Dan
Yep,
tomorrow.
no
and-
problem. I think it does, but I'm not 100% sure. I believe so. And so this will have to have public comment at city council meetings. Do we have to have public comment at committee of the whole meetings?
No, I think I read it and it said everything else is the same. It's just city council meetings.
Oh.
When I
my
read through it.
I read it too, but I'm still hearing rumors, and so I'm just trying to make sure that we know what we're talking about. Maybe next week we can have Dan give us a quick overview. Either way, we are being asked the question if we want to limit the amount of time that people can speak, both the length of time the individual can speak from, currently it's 5 minutes. We can change that if we want to. And we can also set a total time limit on how long we would take public comments. Right now, technically, we take public comment ad infinitum. If the entire town showed up, everyone would get 5 minutes. So the city of Fargo limits to 30 minutes. I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying the city of Fargo currently does that. So if people have thoughts, I know Ms. Osowski was eagerly anticipating speaking because you raised your hand already. Yes?
Yeah. Now, my understanding of this is we're basically going back to the way it was in 2023, where any citizen or anybody is allowed to speak, correct? There are no...
Yep, that's the way I see it.
Okay. I mean, I guess I don't really want to put limits on the public comment, but when it does concern me a little bit sometimes when other people come from outside of our community that really have no business being here. I mean, we all get emails from people even across the country, arguing about little things going on in Grand Forks. And so that's concerning to me, but at the same time, I don't really want to limit them. But the reason why it used to be 3 minutes, and the reason why we moved it up to 5 was because we only allowed like the Grand Forks citizens to speak. And so now if we're opening it up to basically anybody, that concerns me. But at the same time, I don't see too much of a problem with it, but maybe if we're going to go back on this, I wouldn't be opposed to going back to the 3-minute time limit. I guess if other people wanted to set a time frame, I would be in favor of anything over an hour. I don't know if I can do 30 minutes because I want to make sure that people are allowed to speak. But I wouldn't mind going down to the 3-minute time cap and anything above an hour.
Yes, Ms. Lunsky.
So if we did say we changed it to 3 minutes, 30 minutes, how do you pick which 10 people get to speak?
Yeah, I think it would be the first people that put in there, because according to the state law, you have to have a speaker card. You have to identify your name and your address.
I think 30 minutes is a decent amount of time.
I personally would entertain 3 minutes and 30 minutes, but if others want an hour, just more hanging out. I would contend that we don't need to provide comments on agenda items and then comments at the end as well. We should go back to just comments at the end, because any other item that people might want to speak to will have a public hearing. And so essentially, we're going back to where we were, correct, prior to 23 or so.
I don't mind the comments being before the action items. I don't like the 2 different areas for the comments, so I think that's kind of a lot. But I don't mind the comments being before, because then we get to hear their thoughts and everything before we vote. Because at the end of the meeting, only on council nights, it's already said and done. And so...
But, okay, as long as we set a limit...
I'm okay with going down to the 3 minutes. I feel the half hour is a little, well, I mean, that's 10 people still, but if we go down to 3 minutes with transition time, we might not get 10, but.
No, I think it would be, whatever, we could just say 10 people at 3 minutes, right? Or 30 minutes and then be flexible. Yes, Mr. Veen?
Yeah, I think I concur. I like the idea of 3 minutes for 30 minutes. But I'm probably more concerned about the timing of it, because as we take up certain topics, it's great. We need to hear from the public. It may impact our vote one way or another. And to make sure that we have that up front of the vote, for me, is what's important. In fact, one of the things that I've always liked to see is us, in some cases, taking public comment at the committee of the whole, so we can hear that earlier instead of at the end when we are just about to make a decision. That's a different shift. I'm not asking for that today, but I do think that that's worthy of consideration, because I like that idea. As we're talking today, we could hear some of the public input too.
Ms. Lunsky?
If we move it, just so we talk about it with the item, when would someone complain about their neighbor's tenants?
I think you would have to open it up to any public comment. I mean, if you look at, prior to, I think, what its public comment is, what, 2 or 3? I can't remember what it is on the agenda.
So the way I would see that, Ms.
Thank you, Ms.
Lunsky,
Torstad,
is, yes, if you wanted just to have it on one place of the agenda versus the other and have it before action items, you could still open up that section to general comments as well as action items.
Right. Yes, Ms. Burke?
We had received an email from somebody asking us if we did put in a time limit, are we censoring the public by having that time limit on? Like the 30 minute?
Are we censoring the public?
No.
Thank you.
As far as a time limit, to my knowledge, we're the only ones that don't limit.
Right. We're the only city in the state that doesn't.
I'd like to know more what the other cities and the trends of North Dakota specifically are for both the speaker and the full amount of time.
Yeah, I can get you a memo by the end of the week on all of that.
I would like to motion,
$250 right there, Tricia.
I'd like to motion to put a 3-minute time in with an hour tops. I think that's more than fair, because then when we have larger issues, just, 3 minutes, so hopefully if people don't show up, how about 45? I'll meet in the middle at 45. 3 minutes and then cap at 45.
There's a wavering motion. Is there a second?
Yeah,
Second.
yeah, I say
Second by
3 and
Weigel.
45.
3 and 45. Further comments?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Berg?
So I'm still a newer council member. What is the history like of the length of public comments?
We just changed it in 2023. It used to be 3 minutes, and then we X'd out where only community members are allowed to speak at our city council, which now goes against state code, so we have to remove that. So now we're discussing bringing the time back down to 3 minutes. It used to be 3, and we changed it to 5, and now we want to change it back to 3 again. As for the duration of it, we never had that.
So I guess what I want to know a little more of is, have there been extensive or extended periods, hours long? What was?
You should watch some old council meetings there, Ms. Berg.
Yeah, we've had some long meetings
Yeah.
with lots and lots and lots and lots of speakers, banners, foghorns. We've had a little bit of everything. I was worried that Mr. Gangler was going to lose his hearing when the guy blew the foghorn in his ear.
Yeah.
There's lots of history around public discussion. Generally speaking, my take is Mr. Veen's also been here quite a while. The 3-minute discussion, if you can't say what you need to say in 3 minutes, you're not actually choosing your words appropriately, because over and over again, people just become rambling on, saying the same thing over and over again. Mr. Veen,
No,
thoughts?
I would concur with everything you've said with what's going on. I do think the advantage that citizens have today that they didn't use in the past or didn't even have it is email. It isn't like otherwise you had to be here to speak. Now we get so much information by email, and sometimes you get the email and somebody can give a summary in 3 minutes or something like that too. So, I prefer 3 minutes or 3-minute presentation, whatever, for 30-minute total, still myself. And I think you'll find that's about in line with the other communities. I'm thinking Fargo is about 30 minutes.
They are, for sure.
Yeah, they are 30.
Yeah, that they've heard that, and I think we're being fairly consistent. Although, whatever we vote on today, we'll have more information for council anyway.
Yes, Ms. Lunsky?
Is it 30 or 45 minutes total or per topic?
No, total.
Total. Gotcha.
Yep. My personal opinion is 3 minutes and 30 minutes is what I would support, so I'm not going to compromise, I'm sorry. I've been through too many of these. Yes,
Okay,
Ms. Berg, yes?
how about then, instead of, I don't want transition time to get in the way. And sometimes, we have had situations within our chambers where people
Heckling?
heckling, they're taking up other things. So if we go down to 30 minutes, I'm okay. I want to do 10 speakers then.
3 minutes, 10 speakers. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that.
Okay, I think that would be fair then. So I motion 3 minutes, 10 speakers.
Okay, there's a motion, 3 minutes, 10 speakers. We've already got a motion and a second on the floor. Do you rescind your original motion?
Well, you said you weren't going to agree with it, so.
Yeah, but we still technically have to vote on it, or you need to rescind your motion.
Okay, I rescind my motion.
Mr. Weigel, are you okay? Okay, thank you. So there's a motion, 3 minutes, 10 speakers. Is there a second? Mr. Veen,
Nope.
thank you. Oh, no. Mr. Weigel, yes? Mr. Veen,
So I
comments?
just bring up, if you have somebody who only comes up
Yes.
for a minute, and the next person comes up for a minute, you're only going to get whatever minutes.
Think of all the transition time, though, that we're going to be wasting, so it'll probably be about 3 minutes anyways. So, they use up their 3 minutes, they use up their 5 minutes now. If we gave them 10, they'd use up the 10 minutes, so I've never heard really anybody come up here and speak for 1 minute.
The good news is obviously, these changes can take effect relatively quickly. If we go to 10, 3 minutes and 10, and we're done in 8 minutes with
What-
10 speakers, we can always change again if we need to.
There's three.
So that's good news. So there's a motion and a second on the floor. Maureen, did you have something for the good of the order?
I was going to say we could do it, limit to, 30 minutes, but no less, or how would you say that? You can limit it to the 10 speakers.
No more than 10
Yeah,
speakers.
right.
I guess I feel that puts a little bit more restraint on it. And I mean, it is public comment. We are elected by the public. I think it is part of our job to listen to our citizens. And so I mean, I already don't like the 30 minutes, but I'm willing to compromise as I know I'm not going to win the no time limit. So, but I don't want to put too many limitations on it. I do agree with dropping it from 5 to 3, as Mr. Sandy stated. If you can't get out what you want to say in 3 minutes, then you should have been more prepared.
Ms. Berg?
Yes. I actually am in agreement with Rebecca on not having a time limit. This is for the citizens, and the legislative body determined that we need to have public comment for a reason, because throughout North Dakota, not everyone was doing what they should have been doing. And so I like the 3 minutes, and I wouldn't want to put a time limit for the number of people at this time. Again, that could change in the future, but that's where my thoughts are. I also really want to point out that I appreciate that people can email. And I have a question on, I've noticed, Mr. Sandy, President Sandy, that there's been times where you've forwarded on emails that you've received to be counted as public comment. And I guess I have a question on how the others of us should be doing that. If we receive emails, should we be forwarding that on as public comment or just receiving as council members?
Well, I certainly don't make those rules. I follow the general rule that our email is public information, and if somebody's taking the time to email me, unless they specifically say, this is just between us, I consider it as public information. And so if people are asking questions and are asking for answers, I like to provide that as part of I send it on to Sherry, and so she can attach the emails. If I haven't heard from anyone that they thought it was a bad idea or they wished I hadn't done so, so I feel like I'm probably doing a service to the people that are taking the time to reach out.
So with that, I guess, could we get an opinion from Mr. Gosted on that?
Yes, I will talk to him tomorrow.
An opinion, okay, good idea. $500.
I also saw that within the document that was sent to us for the comment policy, in the next section down, below, what is it? It's 2A. It refers, no, what is it? It's 2.1 subsection A, I believe, where it's referring back to citizens of Grand Forks can speak, or residents or business owners, and so I don't know if we need to correct that part as well.
Yep, very good. Good catch. It's a missed red line. Okay. Mr. Friedhouse. Yes, sir.
So I was just checking, so other cities, mostly, some do 2 minutes per speaker with 10 minutes per allowed. Minot does 5 minutes per speaker, 30 minutes total, but it can be extended by a council majority.
Ooh, I like that part.
So, and per some other ones, just, everyone's around 3 to 5 minutes still, and some allow 15, but I think I like that idea of, if it's up to us, if it's something that's going really well, I think then we extend it as a majority.
I don't know if that actually needs to be in the ordinance, because we can do that.
Right, anyway.
Anyway,
Okay.
we certainly have that capability anytime we want to. Yes, Ms. Storsved?
Just a quick question as we look at this policy, and I can follow up with Marcus and Mr. Gosted, but if the motion to be voted on is limiting the number of speakers, I would question if we should instead say a stated time frame so it doesn't infringe on any state law if we're limiting the number of speakers. So if we're in the 30 minutes and it is on, we're only at, I don't know about the limited number of speakers, just in case we're still within the 30 minutes, we may get in trouble by not letting out an 11th person speak. So, but I do like, and like you said, I think anytime a council could vote to extend a time frame, whether that needs to be written in the policy or not, but that might be a way for you to do it.
Perhaps there's some sort of language the city attorney could recommend that is essentially 3 minutes and 30 minutes or 10 or more people, perhaps.
Unless otherwise voted on by the council to extend.
Well, again, I don't think we need to have that as part of the ordinance, but maybe we do. If Mr. Gosted says we need the language that says unless it's voted on by the council majority to extend it, I would leave that up to the city attorney, I guess. Mr. Veen, were you, no? Yep, sorry.
I think I'm ready to vote because I like 3 minutes for 3 minutes
for 30.
individual for 30 minutes, make it simple and keep it easy.
Yep, okay. Is that the motion we have right now?
No, we
No, we have
have,
3 minutes and 10 people.
but
So, I would
is that
agree with you. I
lawful
think
to put in
three-
the 10 people? I mean, he's our acting attorney right now.
As far as lawful, I will default to the memo that I will send you by the end of the week.
Well, I'm with Mr. Veen. I'd prefer 3 minutes and 30 minutes myself. So I'll be voting no. So there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Can we, Ms. Osowski, would you be willing to amend your motion so that we move forward to 3 minutes per speaker, 30 minutes total until next week, just to get this to next week? And then we can get further information
I
from
agree
Mr.
with that
Gosted.
because I think a lot of us have a lot of questions about it. And so I am more than happy to change my motion to 3 minutes and 30 minutes. And plus it takes out the 10 people, so we don't really have to ask that question. But I think, we'll get a memo by the end of the week on what we're allowed to do. So I look forward to that memo.
And Mr. Weigel,
I
are
second
you
it.
okay with that?
Yep.
Friendly amendment to the original wavering motion? Okay. Motion and a second on the floor. Does everyone know what we're voting on? 3 minutes and
sir.
30 minutes total? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Berg dissents. Thank you. Item 311, city code updates, legislative code cleanup. These are requirements from the state. We do this every other year.
Move approval.
Moved
I
by
second.
Weigel, second by Veen. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Osowski, comments for the good of the order?
No, thank you, Mr. Sandy.
Ms. Berg?
No, thank you.
Ms. Lansky?
So I recently found out you can vaccinate your tree for Dutch elm disease.
You just found that out?
Yes.
You live on Reed.
I know. And when I lost 2 trees, I would have
My parents
vaccinated them.
vaccinated their trees in 1980.
I don't think anyone else knows this information. I was wondering if we could get someone to tell us about this.
I think that's handled by the park board, Ms. Lunsky, and that's where I reached out to find out about vaccinating elms trees. So it is ran by the park board. I think they're the ones that kind of deal with that.
Yep, they are, but it'd be great if let's get the park board to give us maybe the city forester could come in and give us a little rundown. It's actually a great idea, we should.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Friedhoffs?
Nope.
Thank you. Mr. Veen? Vice President Weigel?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I move adjournment.
Moved by Osowski, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're adjourned.